Hey everybody, I am Brady Briggs. Welcome to another episode of the Combat Logic. Back with another video here today to break down UFC Columbus, going down tomorrow night, March 26th, 2022, Columbus, Ohio. So, second fight on the preliminary card, we have Niccol versus David Dvorak, and this is a very exciting matchup because Niccol just came back to the UFC last year to win a split decision over Manal. Now, his first UFC run, he went 3-1, only losing to Dustin Ortiz. He beat guys like John Moraga and Luis Smoga, former title challenger, and a really promising prospect in Smoga. His career hasn't gone the way a lot of us predicted, but it was a very good win to have at the time. Nonetheless, after he lost to Dustin Ortiz, he was cut. He then went 2-0 and then returned against rising champion Manal in Manal's UFC debut. He won a split decision. It was a very, very close fight. It could have gone either way. He has since rebounded against Tim Elliott. Again, a very close fight that could have gone either way. Honestly, he could be 0-2 in his UFC return, but he's 2-0. And David Dvorak is returning. He's also 29 years old. Dvorak came over to the UFC in 2020 and went 2-0 that year and then followed it up last year with another victory. So he's 3-0 inside the octagon, while Niccol is 2-0 in his return. This is going to be a really good fight. I'm so excited to see David Dvorak come back. Like, he is such a technically sound talent. This is the second fight on the prelims, guys. One is 17-2, one is 20-3. Like, it's a great fight. Jennifer Maia is going to fight Manon Ferriat in the next fight. Ferriat's 3-0 in the UFC. Maia, former title challenger. That should be interesting. Chris Gutierrez is fighting Dana Garrow. This should be interesting because Garrow just came out of nowhere and burst onto the scene with a knockout victory over Guido Canetti. He also has a win over KaraFrance. Guido just knocked out Chris Motino, something Sean O'Malley couldn't do, and he did it in like 2 minutes. Since then, he's also gotten 2 more knockout victories. So he made his UFC debut at 9-1, lost to Alatang Haley by a decision. He's since gotten 3 straight knockout victories over Guido Canetti, Kevin Nativad, and Brandon Davis in Brandon Davis's UFC return. All of them are in the first round, too. He is fighting Chris Gutierrez, who, since losing his promotional debut to Raoni Barcelos, the only time he was ever finished, he's since gone 5-0-1. He's one of the better kickers in the game. He's got really, really great leg kicks. He TKO'd Vince Morales with leg kicks. That's not even. He also TKO'd Jimmy Flick with leg kicks. The 2020 Submission of the Year winner, he TKO'd him with leg kicks too. And he's got some more kicks to go along with it. He's got good hands. He's a very, very technical talent. If he wins this fight, he'll be 6-0-1 in his last 7. Like, it'd be time to really give him a step up. Same with Dana Garrow. If he improves to 4-1 inside the UFC, it's time to give him a step up. See, Carol Rosa is facing Sarah McMahon in the prelim co-main event. Now, Rosa's 4-0 in the UFC. She's made some waves, too. All 4 of those wins are decisions, but she's 4-0 inside the UFC. Sarah McMahon, an Olympic silver medalist in freestyle wrestling, a world champion in freestyle wrestling, a former title challenger in the UFC. She was just mauling Juliana Pena in her last fight, quite handily, too, until Pena ended up taking her back and sinking in the choke late in the 3rd round. Like, if that fight went the distance, she would have won. Pena just beat Amanda Nunes. She went 2-0 last year, and she's now the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. Sarah McMahon was mauling her. And she's 1-3 in her last 4 since returning. But this should be a really interesting fight. Is Carol Rosa ready for the upper echelon of competition, or is Sarah McMahon does she still have it? She is 41 years old now, so time will tell. In the prelim main event, this is a really good fight. Max Griffin versus Neil Magny. Both of these guys are really good strikers. Both of these guys give their opponents, especially Magny, a really, really tough time. Magny, they both lost a lot, but dude, they both like I said, they give their opponents a lot of problems. Max Griffin, since losing back-to-back fights to Alex Morono and Alex Oliveira, he's since gone 3-0 with 2 knockouts, defeating Ramiz Bramija, Song Keenan, and Carlos Condit. Condit is the one that he couldn't finish, of course. That brought his record to 18-8. He's done very well for himself lately. While Neil Magny, I'm pretty sure he's coming off a loss to... Nope, he's not coming off a loss to Chiesa. He rebounded with a win over Jeff Neal. He's 4-1 in his last 5. So 4-1 in your last 5 and then 3-0 in your last 3. This is going to be a good prelim main event. Mark Jacasey is starting off the main card against Vladislav Boshev. No, Vladislav, man, if you didn't see his UFC debut, go back and watch it. That was a sick fight. That was an absolutely sick fight. He ends up getting a nasty shovel hook KO against a promising prospect after almost getting knocked out. He almost got knocked out, man, and he's a pro kickboxer. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I don't know what his kickboxing record is. I wish I did. But he is 6-1 as a mixed martial artist. And Mark Jacasey, man, he was one of the more promising prospects we had in the sport, too. He was a 3-time BAMMA champion, won the belt, defended it twice before coming over to the UFC with a record of 9-0. He won 3 straight fights with 2 knockouts, and then he lost 3 straight. He lost a very close decision to Drakkar Klose. Then he was submitted by Dan Hooker. Then he lost to Nasrat Haqparast, and he took a little bit of a break. He returned that next year to defeat Joe Duffy in his hometown of London, England. That was a beautiful thing to see. A lot of people were picking Duffy to win that fight. He then beat Lando Venata before losing to Rafael Fiziev, and Rafael Alves. Alves submitting him very early in the first round. Now, this should be really interesting because Jacasey's a really, really crafty striker, but we've seen that he can get outstruck by better strikers like Rafael Fiziev, pro kickboxer, just like Vachislav is. Haqparast began his career with kickboxing. Dan Hooker began his career with kickboxing. Drakkar Klose is more of a striker than anything, but that doesn't mean he can't win fights against stand-up guys like Joe Duffy is. I'm pretty sure he's an undefeated boxer. If he's not, he lost 1 time. It's like 12-1 in boxing or 12-0 in boxing. Lando Venata, another one of the more crafty strikers we'll see in the sport. He has wins over them. But this should be a really interesting fight. I am really, really looking forward to this one. Ilir Latifi is performing in his sophomore effort at heavyweight. Wait, no. This is a junior effort at heavyweight. He first lost to Derek Lewis before he beat Tanner Boser in his last fight. He is now fighting Alexei Oleinik, who is one of the better submission grapplers we've ever seen in the sport, but he's coming off 3 straight losses. Now, Oleinik is a perfect example of a non-traditionally trained grappler just improvising in the moment. So many of his wins come from improvising. How can I put him in pain? How can I cut off the blood to his brain? And they're not traditional submissions, scar folds and Ezekiel chokes and all this shit. But it works for him. It works really well. But he needs to get the fight to the mat. And Latifi is a stud wrestler. So that's going to be very difficult for him to do, I think. But that being said, Latifi is undersized at heavyweight. He's the smallest heavyweight on the roster by far. Even Daniel Cormier is a lot bigger than him. But he's thick as fuck. He hits really hard. And this should be interesting. I don't really know how this one's going to go. This one I'm probably most excited for of any of them. Askarov versus KaraFrance. Now, either of these guys could reasonably get a title shot right now. KaraFrance came to the UFC finally. Like, he didn't come to the UFC off his Ultimate Fighter season, and I was really upset about that. But he finally came to the UFC and won 3 straight. Then he lost to Brandon Moreno, won another one, and then lost to Brandon Royval. By this point, he's 4-2 in the UFC. He's since gotten 2 first-round knockouts over Rogerio Bontorin and former bantamweight champ Cody Garbrandt, who beat the best ever to claim that belt. So him and Askarov, who is 14-0, I think 14-0-1. He also fought Brandon Moreno. He went to a draw with him. He's since beat Tim Elliott, Alexandre Pantoja, and Joseph Benavidez. Benavidez is one of the best fighters ever to never win a belt. Pantoja is 2-0 against Brandon Moreno. and Tim Elliott gives everybody a tough time. That was also a pretty close fight, but you know, he got the nod. He's a former ACB flyweight champion. He won the belt and defended it twice before coming over. He's been 5 rounds before. He's finished the fight in the 5th round before. He's a very, very skilled dude. Like, he might actually be the champion here come soon. Like, he's so dominant. He mauls everybody. Typical Russian. Our feature fight is a rebooking of Matt Brown versus Brian Barberena. Now, we were supposed to see this a few months ago, rather. And I don't remember who had to pull out. One of them had to pull out that with COVID or an injury or something. And now they get to fight each other tomorrow night. And I am so excited for it. Like, Brian Barberena hasn't had that awfully great of a go lately, but neither has Matt Brown. Barberena is 42. I believe Brown is 40 or 41. He's 41. They're both about as durable of talents as you can find, but they're not as durable as they used to be. Both have been knocked out at this point. But both of them also knocked their opponents out to get them out. Like, this is going to be an absolute war. Like, you know how when Matt Brown fights and they introduce him while they're in the cage and they're about to say go, they say he's a technical brawler? Well, that's because he is. That's exactly what he is. And that's kind of what Brian Barberena is, too. So we're in for a good fight with this one. And Joanne Calderwood is fighting Alexa Grasso in the co-main event. Calderwood, 19-2, is a pro kickboxer, but she also hasn't had that great of a go lately. And we all thought that she was gonna fight for the belt, maybe even win it at some point, like when we saw her on The Ultimate Fighter, but when she was still undefeated. But she's had so many hiccups along the way, like especially when she lost to Jennifer Maia, because she was going to get a title shot with a win and she got submitted in the 1st round. She's since gone 1-2, beating Jessica Eye and losing to Lauren Murphy and Talia Santos, being finished by Santos. While Grasso is one of the better boxers in female MMA, and she has since won her last 2 straight. She's 3-1 in her last 4, only losing to Carla Esparza. Prior to that, she only lost to Tatiana Suarez. Man, where are you at, Tatiana? We miss you. Come back. Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus is the main event of the evening, as we know. And this is a pretty good fight, too. Like, they're really not doing Chris Daukaus any favors at all. Like, man, this dude is getting matched with some hard fights. But 'tis the game. Blaydes came over to the UFC with a record of 5-0 and lost to Francis Ngannou, but then he went 5-0. With a no contest in his next 6. That no contest, he was winning. He would have won that fight, but yeah, those wins show him victorious over Alexei Oleinik, Mark Hunt, Alistair Overeem. He then lost to Ngannou again, and then went on another 4-fight win streak where he's beat Shamil Abdurakhimov, Junior Dos Santos, Alexander Volkov. So right there, you see 4 world champions he has wins over. Okay, he was then piecing Derek Lewis apart. He was picking him apart so handily on the feet, and he shot on the takedown. The first takedown he shot was caught with the most vicious uppercut I've ever seen in my life. Like, you think Jeremy Stevens caught Rafael Dos Anjos with a vicious uppercut? Go fucking watch this fight. Like, it was crazy. He's since rebounded with a unanimous decision over Jairzinho Rozenstruik. While Daukaus was perfect in the UFC until his last fight where he was knocked out by Derek Lewis. Both of these guys got knocked out by Derek Lewis last year. Prior to that, he was 3-0 in the UFC with 3 knockouts, getting performance of the nights in all of them. He's got really good footwork. He's very quick. He hits really hard. Like, he's a very athletic heavyweight. He doesn't really look like it, but he is. He's very athletic, and he's a very sound talent. Curtis Blaydes is 31, while Daukaus is 32. Whoever wins this fight will stay in the top of the division. Blaydes is number 4, while Daukaus is number 9 right now. And yeah, this should be a pretty interesting fight. See how it goes. What do y'all think? What's your favorite fight of the night? Thank you for watching. Have a good one.